Hello and welcome to Tuesday NEWSDAY, your #1 resource for the entire week's worth of VR news. This week has some huge news, from HP announcing a very interesting Valve-involved headset and a leak on a new Oculus headset to Gabe Newell talking about their future in brain-controlled VR. Let's just get right into the news. Well, it's here. After 13 years of waiting, excitement, and frustration with Valve, Life Alyx launched yesterday. Now, some people may not understand the massive amount of hype behind this game, and that's okay. If you've been a PC gamer over the past decade or more, you've lived through the countless Half-Life 3 memes and leaks that led nowhere, and you likely grew up quoting G-Man whenever possible. But if you're new to the PC platform, I could totally understand how it may feel like the aura around Half-Life is foreign to you. Needless to say, the entire franchise has been on hold for more than 10 years, and we finally have a new installment, and to top it off, it's on our platform, that being VR. So what's the consensus? No spoilers, by the way. Well, the game is receiving extremely high praise, scoring a 9.2 out of 10 from PC Gamer, 4.5 out of 5 from GamesRadar, and a whopping 10 out of 10 masterpiece rating from IGN. All eyes are on VR right now, and I could gladly say that we have a true flagship must-play for everyone that loves VR. But what are my thoughts on it? Well, it's certainly the best looking VR game I've ever seen to date. The sense of scale is jaw-dropping, and contrary to many VR games, everything feels almost solid, like it's actually made of matter. The Combine are nothing to scoff at, and their presence will fill you with awe, whether or not you fought them back in 2004. The storytelling and puzzles as well as the setting is nothing short of fantastic so far. If, however, you're a giant fan of the freedom that Boneworks gives you in terms of the variety of ways you could approach a situation or the movement of said game, then Life Alyx will definitely not be pushing that envelope for you. It's certainly one of the most consistent and polished VR games out there, but it doesn't break any rules in terms of movement or complexity. In my opinion, this is both good and bad. For me, of course, I wish I could jump through a window and climb to a building to fall on my enemies with a crowbar, or at least have the option to, but that's just not Alyx. There is practically no melee, and you'll find yourself teleporting to jump, and the actual amount of options you have in combat scenarios are pretty low. But the visuals, narrative, puzzles, physics, and gravity gloves are the best in class. One of the coolest parts about Alyx is that I now have a game that I could get someone into that is new to VR and show them an incredibly looking and playing game. I just can't do that with Boneworks. It has a tendency to make people sick or be too complex for new users. So for all the holding back Valve did do in terms of movement that can sometimes feel restrictive compared to something like Boneworks, it's for good reason. It's a game that's easy to get into no matter how experienced you are in VR, and it'll knock almost anyone's socks off, familiar with Half-Life or not. I'm proud to say that Valve didn't screw the pooch here, and that Life Alyx is certainly a must-play and must-buy for any and all VR users. Now, what about the obvious impact that Alyx will have on the VR market? Well, like I said, all eyes are on VR now, more than ever. We have a giant game from a giant studio, and the game didn't flop. Life Alyx broke the all-time concurrent user stats for any VR game on Steam, previously held by Boneworks at just shy of 9,000 concurrent players. Well, Half-Life had more than 42,000, and that's how you shatter a record. In other stats, Alyx was the most watched game on Twitch, at least for a short period of time, grossing over 300,000 viewers. May I remind you that there was a point in time when Twitch actually removed the virtual reality category. Yikes. Needless to say, I think that VR will be getting more attention from the platform soon enough, which is very much so needed. The game is also the very first VR game to ever break the top 25 on Steam. It's all good stuff. I've got more news on Valve and their next 2 or 3 games that they had in development, as well as Gabe Newell talking about VR neural interfaces, but I'll cover that after this pretty gigantic news on HP and a new headset they have in the making. If you've been watching VR for a while, you'll remember the HP Reverb. It's a mixed reality headset that, while praised for its extremely high resolution and comfort, had 2 major issues that plagued its launch. One was that it's a mixed reality headset, but it carried the price of a more expensive SteamVR tracking capable HMD. And 2, there were some pretty massive quality control issues that caused early death or issues with the displays. All in all, it's not a terrible headset, just it had its problems. Well, this is exciting because HP is back at it again with the HP Reverb G2. Now, I don't want to overhype this thing because we know practically no information about it at the moment, but holy crap, I am personally excited for this to come to market. The biggest reason I'm excited for it HP has stated that it's a joint venture with Microsoft and Valve. This means that the new Reverb may be utilizing Steam VR tracking as its new standard, although I do see 2 slots where it looks like cameras are going to be placed. Of course, these 2 camera spots could be pass-through cameras or the typical cameras that are on all Windows mixed reality headsets that offer inside-out tracking. But what if the headset was capable of both inside-out to sell the headset at a cheaper price, but also had the sensors on the headset as other base station tracked headsets have? Perhaps that is a little far-fetched, but right now I would definitely welcome any new base station tracked headsets to market. Right now, the space is just riddled with extremely expensive headsets like the Index or Pimax Artisan and Vive Cosmos Elite, and they all come close to or exceed $1,000. There's no saying if this headset will be any cheaper, but there's a good chance that it will be. Either way, I know that I'm pumped for this headset announcement, as I was feeling like Windows Mixed Reality and Microsoft were kind of done with VR. Also, I should point out that the Valve Index style off-ear headphones seem to be on this headset as well, which is another great thing. In case you're wondering why I'm even excited about this headset, let me give you a couple specs on the last Reverb. 114 degrees FOV, but the resolution was 2160 by 2160 per eye. That's sick. Considering the Index is only 1440 by 1600 per eye, if the Reverb has similar audio, good comfort, a higher resolution, and is Steam VR compatible, it's gonna be a badass package. There's no arguing that. But now it's time for a meme break! My experience with the trackpads on the Valve Index after 6 months. So what do you say you do here? Pretty true, but hey, at least Life Alyx uses them occasionally. I mean, I know I'm still hearing complaints from people that they had gotten so used to not using them at all that they started resting their thumbs on the trackpad, only for it to mess them up in Half-Life. Oh well, maybe we'll see a better layout on the Knuckles too. And now, back to the news. Very little information is behind this leak, but there has been a leak of the new Oculus headset codenamed the Del Mar. This sits right in line with Oculus codename schemes having the Santa Cruz, Crescent Bay, and now the Del Mar. This leak was on the Oculus developers website, but has been since removed and is still retrievable through Google Cache. So yeah, it's an official leak. So far, all we've seen or know is under this tab that says Oculus Del Mar development. Quote, "The information contained on this page is restricted to early Del Mar developers only. Do not share this information. Any questions should be directed to the Del Mar First Access Forum or your Oculus partner." End quote. There's also an interesting little tidbit here about some Jedi Controller. I'm not sure what that means, but all this talk does kind of lead me to believe that this is closer to an Oculus Go update. But of course, I could be wrong completely. In fact, I hope that that sentiment is wrong. I'd love to see something more like a Quest Pro that is an official version of the XS Quest that I made in this video recently posted. Either way, I'm sure that we'll find out during the next Oculus Connect this fall. Now back on Gabe Newell and Valve. First off, Valve said flat out that they do not have 3 VR games in development as they stated in 2017. Those 3 games are projects, but Life Alyx took practically all the resources that Valve had in VR. So everything else is either on hold or in limbo. Newell did say that they have plans, but nothing is concrete at the moment. But on the more interesting stuff, brain interfaces and neural interfaces are something that I have long talked about on this channel, as it's of extreme interest to me, and I do truly think it holds a lot for the far, far future of VR. With Elon Musk talking Neuralink lately, even surprising good old John Carmack with its current progress, it's hard not to think about brain interfaces and VR in the same conversation as controls, locomotion, and visual issues are really one of the biggest issues regarding VR at the moment. Well, Gabe Newell says, quote, "We're way closer to the Matrix than people realize. It's going to have a huge impact on the kinds of experiences that we can create for people," end quote. Newell says he's been moving more and more into the BCI or brain-controlled interface field of studies recently, and everything is easier, further along, and more spectacular than many would be led to believe. He states that while feeling something like temperature or certain types of pain are significantly harder to trick our brain into feeling via brain connections due to the complex relationship between nervous system, our immune system, and neurons themselves, hacking into the brain to insert information into our visual cortex or receive information from our motor cortex is significantly easier and even doable at this point in time. We can already read and write to those segments of our brain as is, so assuming this won't make its way to entertainment is kinda crazy. These words in particular not only made me excited, but sort of sent a chill down my spine. Newell saying, quote, "It's an extinction level event for every entertainment form that's not thinking about brain-controlled interfaces. If you're in the entertainment business and you're not thinking about this, then you're going to be thinking a lot more about it in the future," end quote. Oof, those are some pretty strong words, and something like this may be coming even sooner than we all imagine. I'm not sure if if it's me, but I'm getting some serious GSS versus IOI vibes the further we get into this whole VR hardware and software race between Valve and Facebook. And speaking of Facebook, the Quest just received a nice little update via Steam VR hotfix that reduces positional latency by a pretty wide margin. If you've used Oculus Link a lot, you'll notice that some games, particularly Steam VR games, feel like they just have a slight lag or latency to them regarding the tracking. And this is especially noticeable if you've been playing on other headsets that are PC-only headsets. Well, Valve announced some sort of fix in recent Steam VR updates, stating, "Fix prediction when using Quest Link, improve positional latency." This makes sense, as the Quest uses algorithmic prediction for the tracking since a number of factors are pretty different between a standard headset and the Quest plus Link, including the fact that you're not getting a raw video output to the headset. The image is instead compressed, sent, and decoded, adding to the inherent latency of the platform. I'll be testing out the Link and seeing just how much of a noticeable upgrade this is, but it certainly has something to do with Alyx launching and Valve wanting to be sure that everyone gets as good as an experience as possible, whether you own a Quest, Rift, or Index. And now it's time for question of the week from Dennis MGT. What is your favorite VR game? Well, it started out as Lone Echo back in 2018. Then in 2019, Boneworks took that mantle. And now I have to say it's probably Half-Life Alyx. I know I probably come off as jumping on a bandwagon, and I wish I could pick some obscure indie game as my favorite game, but man, Boneworks, Half-Life, and Lone Echo are just such fantastic games. What impresses me even more is that I have a hard time even playing games that aren't multiplayer, and all three of these games are single player only. I can say that VR has gladly brought back the magic of single player games for me, and these are the three that have done it. Make sure to leave your own question of the week below in the comments. I may just answer yours next. It could be about anything. And that's the week's news. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to stop by the stream today. I'll be playing some more Half-Life Alyx and enjoying exploring that world on Twitch. Join up in the Discord for updated notifications on that. Also, I want to thank all of my Patreon supporters, especially my Omegas like Exit, Very Evil Shadow, and Zymph. I couldn't be doing any of this without you. Make sure to like this video if you loved it, subscribe if you want more of this, and hit that freaking bell if you just can't live without it. Much love, Thrill out.